If you're returning from our class last week, I'm glad to have you back. Today we're going to make a whole food plant-based pizza. Bruce, would you bring me one of those crusts? So your recipe that I sent you has my favorite from scratch pizza crust that I typically make every week, every Friday night. But because we're limited to an hour, I don't really have the time to do that. So today we are using a millet and flaxseed pizza crust. So this is gluten-free. It is from Sammy's Bakery, which if you live in Tampa or come to Tampa, this bakery is literally on Bush Boulevard, and they have a store inside their bakery. So about once every month or so, Bruce and I will go over there and we'll stock up on their pizza crust. They also sell bagels, they sell bread, they sell crackers, and they do have a website, and it's Sammy's, S-A-M-I-S Bakery. So this is what we're using today, gluten-free, and Bruce and I are actually going to have a pizza cook-off.
Oh, well.
No, because we have different tastes, and my favorite sauce for a pizza is the white garlic sauce, which is also on your recipe. His favorite pizza sauce is the red pizza sauce, which is also on your recipe. So I made the red pizza sauce in advance, again, because we're limited with an hour. We want to get this in the oven and get it baked and show you what the final product is. So we're going to start with making our sunflower sausage. So if you think that you can't go whole food plant-based because you will miss the meat, you will not miss the meat if you make this sunflower sausage. So I have got 2 cups of raw sunflower kernels. And I'm going to put these in my food processor. And while I'm doing this, Bruce is over at the stove sauteing some onions and some mushrooms. And then I've got, they can't see it.
I don't know. How's it look?
I've got some sun-dried tomatoes, which I've reconstituted in boiling water. They're going in with my sunflower kernels. And then I've got some coconut aminos. You could use low sodium soy sauce or tamari. Then I've got some maple syrup, just a little bit. And I've got some liquid smoke. This is a beautiful ingredient. Let me show you. It usually comes in a very small bottle, but this is how I buy it because I use it in a lot of things. It gives me that smoky flavor that you would typically get with like a barbecue meat. So this I love. And then I've got, lastly, my spices. So I'm going to put all this in here, and I'm going to pulse my ingredients. Then I'm going to scrape down the sides of my bowl. And then I pre-cooked my onions and my garlic. So I'm going to put that in with the rest of my ingredients. And then I'm going to pulse it again. And what I'm looking for is a nice sausage texture. So in addition to using this for a pizza topping, you could make biscuits and gravy. So I'm going to pulse that again. And it's not in the recipe, but Bruce and I both like a little spice, he more than I. So I'm going to take some crushed red pepper, and I'm going to add just a little bit of that to my sausage crumbles.
You don't have to put that in.
Yeah, if you don't want it spicy, then don't add it. It's not in the recipe. So, my sausage crumbles are done. I wish you guys could not only taste this, but smell it, because it smells wonderful. So this is what we're ending up with, is sausage crumbles, and this is going to go on our pizza. So the next thing that we want to make, yes, more please. I'm still sauteing onions and mushrooms. So I'm going to move to making my white sauce. So for my garlic white sauce, I am going to make it in my little personal blender. So if you have a NutriBullet, you could use that. This is just a Williams-Sonoma personal blender. So
Noise.
what?
Noise.
Or again, you can move that if you want. Get out of the way. So my ingredients for my garlic sauce, which you have on your recipe, is a half a cup of cashews, which I've soaked in boiling water. It softens them. Then I have 3/4 cup of unsweetened plain oat milk. You could use almond milk, rice milk. I just had oat milk today. And then I've got some cornstarch, which is going to thicken up my sauce. And then I've got my salt, pepper, and my other miscellaneous spices. This is my nutritional yeast, which is going to give it a little cheesy flavor. Some apple cider vinegar. And on the recipe, you'll notice that it says either 1 teaspoon of garlic powder or roasted garlic, which I love roasted garlic. So I just took it and I cut the end off. I put it in some foil. I baked it in the oven. And I'm just going to squeeze out all that great garlic. And if you have the time to do the garlic bulb, I highly recommend you do that, because the flavor is totally different than the garlic powder. And I know the recipe says 4 cloves of roasted garlic, but I just like to take a small head and use the whole head. I need to rinse my hands off. Okay, so I'm going to put my lid on. I'm going to blend this up. So there's going to be a little bit of noise.
A lot of noise. Noise alert!
Okay, so this is my white sauce, my white garlic sauce. And I'm just checking the consistency of it. It's a little thin, so I'm going to add some more cornstarch. Can you give me a spoon, please? I don't want my sauce to be too thin, because it's going to be the base on my pizza. So I'm going to add a little more cornstarch. We can thicken it up a little bit. So I have my white garlic sauce. Bruce is finishing up sauteing the onions and the mushrooms.
Just leave it in the pan?
Yeah, leave them in the pan. So we're going to build a couple pizzas. And your recipe has suggested toppings. Use what you like. There are some meat products, plant-based meat products out there, the Beyond Burger, the sausage, stuff like that. Again, I'm not a big fan of those products because of some of the ingredients in them, but again, if it's the only way for you to make the transition from ordering a meat lover's pizza, then by all means, use the alternative, the plant-based meat alternatives.
Right now, what tray are they on?
No, we're going to build the pizzas and then slide them on the...
On what? What are we going to build them on? We're going to build them on there.
No, we can't. Hand me that.
Yes.
Hand me that, and then get one of the, here, this right here we can use.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to start our pizza cook-off here. So we need 2 pizza crusts.
And the rest.
No, I've already got it. Okay, so we each have a pizza crust. Okay, so mine's going to be the white sauce. Bruce's is going to be the red sauce. I've already turned the oven on, so it's preheating. And we have 2 pizza stones in the oven. I love making my pizza on a pizza stone. If you don't have a pizza stone, the beauty of these crusts is you could slide this right in your oven on the rack, or you can put it on a baking sheet. So Bruce is building his red sauce pizza. I'm going to build my white sauce pizza, and we're going to do some different toppings. So both of the pizzas are going to be different. So we'll start with our sauce, and it's not limited to either a red sauce or this white garlic sauce. I mean, think outside the box. You could make a pesto and put pesto on this, or you could use hummus and put hummus down as your sauce. So I really want this to be thicker.
She has violated all the rules of this cook-off by doing stuff off camera, and she has left me with you. That's wonderful. She's coming back now. She's got this funny look on her face.
So we're going to put our pizzas together, and then while they're baking, then we'll go through a PowerPoint presentation. And then once our pizzas are done, then we'll have a little contest of whose pizza do you think is the best. I know that's going to be hard because you can't taste it, but mine will be the best.
No, mine will be the best.
Something about my toppings that I've chosen today.
That I made for her.
He chopped them all up. Sun-dried tomatoes, again reconstituted. Kalamata olives. Roasted red pepper, artichoke hearts, spinach, red onion, jalapeno peppers, as well as the onions and the mushrooms that he has sauteed. And then, of course, our sunflower sausage is going to be one of my toppings. And also on your recipe is the vegan mozzarella cheese, which again I also made in advance because there would be no way I could make all of this in 1 hour and get the pizza done. So, Bruce, what are your toppings?
My toppings are all simple. They're the red sauce that you fixed earlier, which you already explained to them what it is. I'm using chopped up spinach, whole sliced tomatoes, red tomatoes, red onion, and olives sliced to get on here just perfect.
Green olives.
Green olives. She's using black olives.
I'm using Kalamata olives. He's using green olives.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to let her catch up to me because this is ridiculous.
Usually when we make just one pizza and we have to compromise, then it's usually Kalamata olives and green olives. But today on mine is just the Kalamata olives. So here's my white garlic sauce. And I'm not going to put it all on there, and you'll explain why when the pizza is baked.
You'll see.
Because I'm going to use it to drizzle on my finished pizza slices.
She's a drizzler.
So, and this is not only great on a pizza, but it would be great with pasta. It would be great on a baked potato, on some rice. Okay, so build your pizza.
I'm waiting on you. I don't want to get too far ahead of you because I'm going to kill you.
We're going to have a lot of pizza to eat tonight. We'll have leftovers, obviously.
It works for me.
Okay, so I'm going to start with
All your stuff's up there.
some spinach. Oh, we also have some fresh basil that Bruce went out and cut out of our earth boxes. So we're going to have some fresh basil on our pizzas. Okay, so all right, then I'm going to put some roasted red pepper slices on here.
I'm going to put tomatoes on mine.
And then I've got some artichoke hearts. Well, he's doing fresh tomatoes. I'm doing the sun-dried tomatoes. That's just my preference. I love the taste of the sun-dried tomatoes. So my sun-dried tomatoes are going on next.
Don't forget, we got the good stuff over there in the skillet.
Yep.
The next?
Yes, I would like that. Well, yes.
I know you.
So we're going to put some sauteed onions and mushrooms. Oh, you divided it in half so I don't get too many of them. These were just lightly sauteed, and as we talked about last week, no oil. Because if you start with onions and mushrooms, they're both going to provide some liquid, so they're not going to burn to the bottom of your pan. Okay, then next, I want my sunflower sausage crumbles. So I'm going to get a clean spoon. Here's my sausage crumbles, and this will keep in the refrigerator. We're obviously not going to use it all on 2 pizzas. So I'm just going to sprinkle some on here, and whatever we don't use will go in the refrigerator. And we'll use it for something else, either another pizza or maybe biscuits and gravy.
That looks beautiful.
Mine looks better. Do you want some sausage crumbles on yours?
If I could have some, please.
Yeah, you can.
Just a little bit.
Okay, so Bruce is going to put some sunflower sausage kernels on his. And then I'm going to finish mine. I'm going to do some baby artichoke hearts.
A lot going on here. You hope you can keep up.
And then I've got my Kalamata olives that I'm going to add. What do you got? You got green olives.
Green olives and
Red onions.
red onions. I happen to love onions.
Yes, he can eat them raw. I can't do that. Okay, then I'm going to add my raw red onions to the top. And I'm not going to add as many as he is, because I don't like them as well as he does. But they add a nice little color to my pizza. Again, we're eating from the rainbow. And then I'm going to add some jalapeno slices. Again, if you don't want the spice, then don't use the pepper. If you want more spice, then you could use a serrano or a habanero. You could also buy the pickled jalapenos and use those. And then I want some of the fresh basil. So Bruce just literally picked this. Yeah, that goes on like last. This is fresh basil from our earth box. So I'm going to do some my mozzarella cheese that I made in advance on top of the stove. So I am just going to take and put some dabs of my mozzarella cheese on my pizza.
Does that melt?
It won't melt like real mozzarella dairy. It will melt somewhat.
Basically for flavor.
It will melt somewhat, but not like real dairy cheese would. But yes, it will add a nice flavor to our pizza.
Your pizza.
Oh, you don't want any mozzarella?
Nah.
Okay.
That's for kids.
I like the cheese.
I like the veggies.
Are you putting basil on yours?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you see how hard that was for him to strip that? Okay, so some fresh basil leaves. Oh, smells so good.
Doesn't that smell wonderful?
Okay.
Let's do another one.
Another basil.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, you know, everybody's staying home right now, but if you had to go out and you came back and you wanted pizza for dinner, if you had your toppings already cut up and your sausage made and your sauce made, and if you had a pre-made crust like this Sammy's crust, then it wouldn't take long for you to put this together for your dinner. So, is yours ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, both of our pizzas are ready. We're going to slide them in the oven, and then as soon as we do that, then we're going to go through our short PowerPoint presentation.
Go ahead and start the PowerPoint because we're going to mess around.
Okay. Share my screen. Okay, so the name of our classes are Cooking from the Roots. Come on, switch. So the first slide is by Dr. Joel Furman, and his acronym is GBOMS for anti-cancer foods, which are greens, beans, onions, seeds, mushrooms, and berries. So these are the foods that he says you should eat every day. So, yeah, go ahead and put them in. So Bruce is sliding our pizzas in the oven. Our greens are leafy greens, and we talked about the density of the greens last week. Also the cruciferous vegetables, kale, cabbage, broccoli, these all have very powerful anti-cancer compounds. And don't feel like you have to take notes. You absolutely can if you want to, but I'll be sending a copy of this to Jane. So So here's some of our leafy greens. You can see kale on there, 3 different kinds of kale, arugula, collard greens. And then we have our cruciferous vegetables. And these are the ones I was talking about last week when I told you I saved all my scraps to make vegetable broth. These are the scraps I don't save just because the flavor tends to be overpowering.
20 minutes.
No, about 12. So we're setting our timer for about 12 minutes in the oven. And then beans. And a lot of people have trouble with beans. So if you're not used to eating beans, start slowly. Maybe eat a 1/4 cup a day and then build up your tolerance from there. But the beans have so much nutrition. They're good for diabetes, they're good for weight loss, they're great for protection against a lot of different types of cancer. And that's just a sampling of some of the beans that are out there. Chickpeas, green lentils, black beans, azuki beans, black-eyed peas, kidney beans. The next part of his acronym is the onions. So that's the onion family, which is onions, leeks, garlic, chives, scallions. They also have a lot of cardiovascular and immune effects, as well as helping to fight diabetes. And onions will also slow the tumor development and also induces cell death in colon cancer cells. So again, just the whole family: leeks, garlic, yellow onions, red onions, white onions, chives. These are things you should eat every day. And mushrooms, we're having mushrooms on our pizza. We're also having some onions. I will tell you that to avoid the toxins in mushrooms, you should always cook your mushrooms. Try not to eat them raw. And again, they're associated with decreased risk of breast, stomach, and colorectal cancer. So again, just a great power superfood. And these are all different types of mushrooms. So I encourage you to expand your horizons and add different types of mushrooms into your diet, if you will. They all have different flavors, different textures. And then berries, blueberries, strawberries, blackberries. These are superfoods. They have a lot of antioxidants, as well as cardio protection and anti-cancer. So we've got raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, all your berries.
Blueberries.
Why is it doing that? And then seeds. And today we're using the sunflower seeds for our sausage on our pizza. And seeds and nuts, they contain a healthy fat because our bodies need fat. They're also full of micronutrients. And the flax seeds and sesame seeds contain something called lignans, which also have anti-cancer effects. So here's just a sampling of different kinds of nuts and seeds. And again, you should eat these daily, but I caution you, because of the fat content, don't open up a jar of mixed nuts and sit in front of the television, because before you know it, half of the container will be gone. So the appropriate amount of nuts or seeds would be a handful, and that would be it. This is the daily dozen list, which is put out by Dr. Greger, and he has a website called nutritionfacts.org. And basically, this is what he says you should eat every day: 3 servings of beans, a serving of berries, 3 servings of other fruits, 1 serving of cruciferous vegetables, 2 servings of greens, 2 servings of other vegetables, a serving of flax seeds, a serving of nuts and seeds, a serving of spices, 3 servings of whole grains, obviously 5 drinks, water being the most important, and then exercise, 90 minutes of exercise. This slide is, EWG is Environmental Working Group, and every year they publish the list of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And these are the produce items. The Dirty Dozen is the 12 items that have the most pesticides during the growth stage. So for the Dirty Dozen, I will always buy organic. On the Clean 15, I will buy conventional. And I love to print this list out every year, and I put it in my little coupon caddy when I go grocery shopping. And 2 of the Dirty Dozen that I'll point out to you are grapes and tomatoes. So let's talk about grapes. They're on the Dirty Dozen. So I'm also buying organic raisins because that's a dried grape. And I'm also buying organic wine. The tomatoes are in everything. Ketchup, pizza sauce, spaghetti sauce, barbecue sauce. So again, I'm looking for those type of products that contain organic tomatoes versus conventional. And on the Clean 15, the one item I want to point out is sweet corn. Sweet corn is on the Clean 15 list. However, approximately 88% of the sweet corn grown in the United States is genetically modified. So it's hard to find organic sweet corn, but if I can find it, I will buy it. Again, you'll get this list in the presentation. So let's talk about labels, because that's a big part of adopting a whole food plant-based lifestyle, is reading your labels to know what you're eating, what is in your food. So the first thing we'll talk about is fat. So we strive to eat 20% or fewer fat of the total calories per serving. So if something I'm eating has a calorie of 100 calories per serving, I'm looking for no more than 20% of those calories to be fat calories. Now, there are some tricks of the trade in the food industry where they will manipulate the serving size to reduce that percentage of the fat. And they also add sugar or white flour, which also helps reduce the percentage of fat. And I want to show you what I'm talking about specifically. This is one of my favorite slides. And I actually saw this at the weekend immersion I went to in 2012 in Chicago. If you look real close, the serving size, which shows 0 fat, 0 calories, 0 sodium, the serving size is 1/3 of a second. So they actually had a can of Pam at this immersion that I went to, and you literally cannot just spray 1/3 of a second for this Pam spray. And if you look, the first ingredient is canola oil. So yes, it's got fat, yes, it's got calories. So just be very cautious when you read labels. Sodium, this is a big one. The ratio for sodium to calories should be 1:1. So again, if I'm eating something that the portion size is 100 calories, the sodium should be no more than 100 milligrams per serving. Most of the sodium today comes from restaurants and processed foods. So you will be amazed when you start reading labels. The one I like to talk about is vegetable broth. Next time you go to the grocery store, pick up a quart container of vegetable broth. And a normal vegetable broth, not low sodium, 1 cup is 560 milligrams of sodium. So if you use an entire quart, that's over 2,000 milligrams of sodium in just that container, versus a low sodium or no salt added vegetable broth that will drop your sodium level to about 160 from 560. And then refined sugars and sweeteners. Again, this is something that you have to read your label to look and see exactly what you're getting in the product that you're buying. And for me, if sugar or a sweetener is the very first item listed in the ingredients, I will not buy it. And if it's not the first ingredient, but let's say the next 2 through 6 ingredients are a sugar or a sweetener, again, I will not buy it. You're doing nothing but getting sugar. And I found this interesting. These are the 56 different names for sugar. So the first one is just simple sugars, just a couple of those. This is the one that really blew my mind. Solid or granulated sugars. Look at all of those.
Crystalline fructose, what's that?
Something I really don't want to eat.
Maltodextrin.
And then here's liquid or syrup sugars. So, I mean, there's 56 different names for sugars and or sweeteners. So again, just be very conscious of reading your labels and know what you're buying with the products that you're going to be using. And then refined carbs and grains. You always want to choose a complex carb, which would be the whole wheat flour versus a white flour. So basically, and we don't eat anything white. We don't use white sugar, we don't use white flour, we don't eat white rice, and we don't eat white pasta. So you want to go with the complex carbs, which are the whole grains, the whole wheats, the whole flours, brown rice pasta, whole wheat flour, just nothing white. And then on the list of ingredients, you want to look for as few as products as possible. And obviously, if you can't pronounce one of the ingredients, I am not going to buy that product because I do not know what it is. Yeah, turn the oven off and close the door and let me finish this up. So our pizzas are done. So Bruce is just turning off the oven and we'll go over these last couple slides. Again, I always use this slide. This is one of my favorite slides. Let food be thy medicine by Hippocrates. And then this is just my contact information. Also showing my certifications. I am certified in plant-based nutrition. And I'm also certified in plant-based cooking. So again, I will be sending this presentation to Jane, and everyone will get a copy of it so that you will have it for your notes. So let me get out of here.
Okay, let's go back to you. Don't do that.
I want to stop sharing. Okay, so, all right, our pizza's done. And while we're waiting on that, I want to show you a couple examples of labels. So I've got, this is the tomato sauce that we use today for our pizza. And a serving size is 1/4 cup.
I can't read it.
So my calories are 20. My total fat is 0. My sodium is 5 milligrams. So again, for the ratio of 1:1, I am looking for a sodium content that would be 20 or less. So this is a great product. This, on the other hand, this are the sun-dried tomatoes that is in both the sausage crumbles and on my pizza. Now, this is, and you have to be careful when you buy these. I bought these at Whole Foods because a lot of times the sun-dried tomatoes that are available are packed in oil. So these are nothing but the sun-dried tomatoes. My serving size is 4 pieces. My calories are 35. The fat is 0, which is great. However, the sodium is 450 milligrams. The difference between eating this is I am not going to sit down and eat this whole bag in one sitting. This is like a condiment. So just like with olives where the sodium content is going to be higher, this I'm going to eat in moderation. Like I said, I'm not going to sit down and eat the whole bag.
12 olives on your pizza.
And nutritional yeast. This is in both my garlic sauce, and this again is calories 34 in 1 tablespoon, no fat, and 25 milligrams of sodium. So again, it meets the ratio of 1 to 1. So these are just a couple great products to buy. The container says Bragg's Nutritional Yeast, but I typically buy my nutritional yeast in bulk, either at Whole Foods or Sprouts or on Amazon, and I just dump it in this container. Okay, are our pizzas done?
I don't know.
You don't know? Well, let's pull them out and look at them.
This looks like you like it.
That one is mine. Wow, ooh, my pizza. Oh, you need your pizza cutter.
Yeah.
Mine smells amazing. How's yours smell?
More amazing.
Of course you would say that.
You see these, huh?
I don't know if they can or not, but we're going to put them.
Tilt that screen. There you go. Let's do the pieces now. Leave it there.
Okay, so we're going to cut up our pizza, and then we'll plate it, and then we will go to the chat function and answer any questions that you guys have.
I'm going to cut the best one first.
So how long were they in the oven?
14 minutes.
14 minutes. Okay, so you're not cutting your pieces any smaller?
No, I'll cut them small.
Yeah, I think you should cut them smaller.
I always cut big pieces. She always yells at me about it.
I want a small piece.
Go straight in.
There's one here. I have a piece for yours once you get it on there. Okay, so here is my pizza. This is the white garlic sauce pizza. And Bruce is plating his. And here is Bruce's red sauce pizza. So in about 45 minutes, we finished building our pizzas, including cooking the onions and the mushrooms. Now we've plated it. I wish you guys could taste it. He's adding salt and pepper to his.
No, just pepper.
Just pepper. Okay.
I'm
coming over to see the chat screen. So
tilt the screen.
I want to unmute everyone. You go. No. Chat. Okay. Unmute. Unmute.
I unmuted myself, Michelle.
Okay, can everyone unmute themselves?
So I have a question while everybody's doing that. Can the
Sure.
sunflower sausage crumbles, can they be frozen?
Yes. But they never last that long in my house that I could freeze them. So I will literally make that batch and we will probably eat it over the next week or so. That's a lot of food. Yes, it's a lot of food. We were only going to make one, but I wanted to show you both sauces. And I didn't.
I think I was actually talking about the PowerPoint, that big list that you read out that the one guy recommends eating every day.
Oh, the daily dozen.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah,
Yes.
that seems there was
And,
a lot,
you know,
which is great.
It sounds like a lot of food, but it's not really. I mean, if you think about it, just if you have a salad every night, that would be, you know, all your vegetables. You could throw some broccoli in there. You could throw some chickpeas in it. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can get a lot of those foods into one dish. Somebody's voting. Somebody's voting for Bruce's pizza.
Yeah.
I'm torn. I love red sauce, but I also love artichoke hearts. You like the sunflower sausage crumbles? Yes, I love the sausage crumbles. With eggs, well, we don't eat eggs, but I would do a tofu scramble instead of eggs. And yes, I would put the sausage crumbles in there. Let's see what else we've got here. Is there any type of cheese substitute you could recommend? There is, can you get in my drawer on the left-hand side? There are a couple whole food plant-based cheese options out there. I don't use them a lot because basically they will all contain oil. So here's a couple different brands. This is Follow Your Heart, and this is cheddar cheese. But again, this has got oil in it, so I'm not a big fan of the plant-based cheeses, just like the meats. And then this one is actually mozzarella shreds. This is a different brand. This is Wildlife, and it's 100% vegan, but again, it does have oil in it. So we try and watch how much oil that we include in our diet. Bruce, it looks beautiful, but I really want the white sauce. I'm Team Michelle. I struggle with cheese. I have never liked any fake cheese. I'd rather just do without. That's a personal preference. That was the hardest thing for me to give up, was the cheese. And next week, I believe our class is going to be on cheese. I found that when I eat mindfully and really chew beans, any legumes very well, there's a lot less GI upset, maybe TMI. Yep, and I agree. You should chew all your food really well, but beans in particular, because they are hard to digest. I think the spinach leaves are trimmed. First, take the tail type part off of the stem, the basil I meant to say, yes. And a lot of times I'll just take the spinach, the whole leaves, and just put the whole leaves on the pizza, but Bruce likes to cut them up, so to each his own. Yes, the sunflower sausage can be frozen. I wouldn't have thought to put the leaves on whole. I can't wait to see the end product. Just lost me with the jalapenos. Don't need to use them. You're a good man, Bruce. I think Michelle just swayed me to her side with the artichoke hearts and olives.
Oh.
I think we're tied. But then I lost her with the jalapenos. Just don't use them. Now we can see the process. Sammy's Bakery. Biscuits and gravy sounds interesting. That's all about the screen. Does anyone have any other questions that I'm not seeing in the chat room?
I had just typed in a question. I know you got the gluten-free crust. Do you guys try to avoid gluten, or do you incorporate it?
We don't. When we used to do, we've done live cooking demos at Nature's Food Patch in downtown Clearwater for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
And we have a regular that comes to our classes, and
Regular
she is a true celiac. So when I do
What's a
live
celiac?
demos, a celiac means you cannot tolerate gluten. And, you know, everyone's on the gluten-free bandwagon. I don't believe there are that many people that are true celiacs. You may have a slight gluten intolerance, but as far as being a true celiac, that takes a diagnosis from a medical profession. But because we had one regular that showed up every single month, and we always provided a sample of what we were making, I always tried to do gluten-free. So for us to do a pre-made crust, and again, there's a lot of them out there, but most of them contain oil. So this one does not have oil, and it just happened to be gluten-free, which is why we're using it today.
Michelle, there are a couple other questions here as you walked back. One was about, do you have any suggestions or recommend any pre-prepared frozen dinners? And then there was a question about how much salt would you add to homemade broth?
I would not add a whole lot of salt to homemade broth. I will put a little bit in with my scraps when I make it in my Instapot, and then after I strain it, I'll taste it. And if it needs more salt, then I will put more salt in it. And it's just trial and error, and it's personal preference. I would start with maybe a half a teaspoon and then taste and go from there. As far as frozen meals, there is a good line of frozen meals, and I know they're available at Publix. I'm not sure they're carried anywhere else, but they're called Plant Pure Nation. And Plant Pure Nation also is a documentary. Kim Campbell also has a couple cookbooks, but I think about maybe 2 years ago, they introduced their line of frozen entrees, and I know those are available at Publix. So again, the biggest thing is read the labels. Look at the calories versus the fat. Look at the sodium, and again, look at the ingredients. Any other questions? I can't see the screen from here.
Yeah, Laura asked if you could send directions on the homemade broth.
Sure. Yeah, I'll send that to you, Jane. And I also we did a demo in the summer of 2017 at Nature's Food Patch, and we actually made a gluten-free pizza crust from scratch, and I can send that recipe as well if you'd like to have that. But
yeah, that
again,
would be great.
typically the pizza crust recipe that's on your recipe is my go-to. And whereas most pizza doughs have to be kneaded for 5 to 10 minutes, you just literally mix it together and knead it for maybe 30 seconds, and I just cover it with a towel and let it sit on my counter while I'm getting my toppings together, and it will rise very nicely. And again, that recipe makes 2 pizza crusts.
They're so good.
So this week we're having pizza on Thursday night instead of Friday night.
No, we're doing Friday night also.
Well, you can do both because you got enough for leftovers there.
There you
Well,
go.
that's
There you
true.
go. There you
Yeah,
go.
because we have 2 pizzas and there's no way we're going to eat all this tonight.
So we had a couple questions about videos. I apologize for those that were here with us last week, and for those that you were waiting with bated breath for the first class. We're going to have our communications team edit it just a little bit. It was delayed in the recording, so I think only about 45 minutes of the class were recorded, but we still get a lot of information, especially the PowerPoint at the end. But there was like a little funny beginning there, so I've asked communications to edit it, and believe it or not, I'm not like the priority on their list, so I'm still waiting. And then this one as well, these are really big files, so sometimes Michelle and I kind of go back and forth trying to get them to work. But those, yes, will be available, and my apologies for the delay in getting that first week out.
The other question I have is, did anybody make the Mexican quinoa that we showed last week?
I have not made it yet, but it is on my list because I absolutely love quinoa.
Okay.
You probably aren't surprised to hear that I'll be leaving out some of the spices, though, because I am a spice wimp.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Like I said, all the recipes that we provide are just a template. So play with them and, you know, add things or take things out, make them your own. It's just a
Laura
starting
Averill
point.
said she sort of did. Laura Griffith, did you tell me that you made it? Or am I mistaking you for, somebody told me they made it and loved it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I had bought a package of it had quinoa and brown rice to it, one of those things you add to stuff. And today for lunch, actually, I cut up a lot of vegetables because I do the buy farm food, and I get the 20 pounds of vegetables for 20 bucks. And so I have a load of vegetables that I have to get through because I'm the only person. And so I cut up a whole bunch of like zucchini and carrots and everything and put them in the pan, and I added garlic and onions and peppers and everything. And then once that was all heated up and cooked, then I added the quinoa and brown rice, and it was really good.
I bet it was. It sounds good.
You know, somebody was talking earlier about frozen dinners and stuff like that. Take the rice and stuff that you just made, the quinoa, and freeze portions of it to use as a dinner or something later.
Yeah, sometimes I will do that. I'll make something and I have containers that stack, and I just, you know, freeze the rest of it, and then I'll grab one out every day. Back when I used to go places and go to work and stuff, I would take one to lunch.
Back in the good old days, right?
Back in the good old days. I was going to say, when y'all were talking about white foods versus non-white foods, I buy this brown rice pasta at Sprouts, I think, and I think Publix also. No, Publix doesn't have the brand I like. Oh, the last time I looked, my daughter's like, yeah, they do. But the last time I looked, they were out. But I got to tell you, I can remember back in the day when they first started making other types of pasta, and it was disgusting.
Yeah.
It tasted like wet cardboard. But now the brown rice pastas they're amazing. I love them. Actually, I prefer them over the regular pasta.
Is it Tiki Yada, the brand?
I can't remember. It comes in a brown, like a clear bag with a brown.
Yep. I think it's Tiki Yada. That's my favorite brown rice pasta.
Oh my God, it's so good.
And we'll be talking about batch cooking in one of our sessions. And I think next Wednesday, we're doing cheese. I haven't decided yet which cheeses we're going to make. We make 5 or 6 different ones, so I'll be working on that this weekend, but we're going to make some cheese next week.
All right, sounds good.
Any other questions?
I was just going to jump in. I know, Julie, you were the one that asked about the prepared frozen dinners. You know, sometimes like the weeknights, you just got to grab something really quickly and there's no time. So I would just say with those, they are really high in sodium often. So be careful and make sure you read the labels and compare. Sometimes the all natural brands like Amy's, if you really look at the label, man, they have a ton of sodium. So I don't have a lot of experience with them. The only thing I will say is Greenwise, the Publix, I think organic brand Greenwise, they do have like a bean burrito that I've gotten before that's actually really low in sodium and has very minimal ingredients. So I know that's not really like an entree meal that I can help you with, but I think the Greenwise, if you're careful, you might even do a little better on the sodium with their actual private brand than some of the bigger brands like Amy's. Sorry, Amy.
And I think the Plant Pure Nation, the sodium level on those are, well, some of them are high, but they're going to be a lot less than the Amy's that you're talking about or the other frozen entrees that are out there. So if you can find the Plant Pure Nation frozen entrees at Publix, give those a try. But again, you know, be mindful of your labels, read your labels.
Doesn't matter who makes it.
Well, thank you both. I don't want your pizza to get cold. You'll have to tell us next week how much you enjoyed it.
Bruce is going to take a bite.
Go, Bruce. And I love the fact that it didn't flop. That's great. I was wondering with all those toppings. Now you just need some wine.